Cars were not just these inanimate objects that you use. They were not just utilities, they were companions.
Sometimes you get so target fixated on the sub goal, which, let's be honest, everything that we're doing, business, creating, these are sub goals.
It's your ability to take the box that you are given, the same box that everyone else is given, and create the most beautiful thing inside of that box.
People get fixated on making artistic journey or their creative journey or making content their main source of income.
If you're young, like, you're gonna do stupid stuff. You're gonna make mistakes, and that's the thing. Like, mistakes are good, man. Mistakes are like the things you should be hanging on your wall. They're not things you should hide.
So today's episode, Assalamu alaikum,
Walaikum
Guff
salam.
from Albon Films joining us on the Caravan podcast.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
How are you surviving that sweater? It is 100 degrees outside, man.
I wanted to look good for you guys.
You always look good,
but
mashallah.
I suffered from 8 a.m. this morning to now. Just for
You
this.
got ready. When did you text me?
It's 5:30 right now.
Yeah, and the whole day I put in for you guys.
Guff texted me at 8:31 in the morning, checking if we're still good for today. So yeah, you've been in the mindset.
I told you guys.
Incredible.
Let me say something.
Yeah.
I was a little nervous for this, and in a good way. I think I'm nervous when there's something that I like going to happen and like something interesting. And so I was a little nervous, and I was like asking people again, my wife and a couple of friends and stuff. I'm like, I don't even know what to say. You know, like, I'm like, what are they gonna ask me? Like, I gotta think about this stuff. And then I was like, actually, no, I don't. I just need to come in, we'll vibe. It'll
Exactly.
be nice.
Well, fortunate for you, we're doing that part of questioning, and you're doing the fun part of the answer. Right?
Yeah.
And we get the best part, and the audience as well, is learning more about how you got to where you got to. And so, I know we met a few years back. You've kind of already been in your, creative journey as a full-time YouTuber at that point. But I kind of want to start in the beginning. And I guess that's not a point for a Q and Hillary Duff song there. But when it came to starting your journey, right, in just earning money, right? Not even as a creator, but just as, because you're first generation, right? And you're the eldest, right? Youngest. Okay.
Yeah.
So how did that go when you're graduating high school and you're going into, this realm of, okay, what I want to do with my life?
Yeah.
What was like that first step?
So fascinating. So I guess like at that point, in my life. So let's call it like that graduating high school point in my life where it's like, hey, I need to decide like what I'm doing with my life. At that point, I was already a nerd for many years, which was the biggest blessing I ever had. I love nerds.
What does nerd mean to you?
People
get nerd and geeks mixed up all the time, and it grinds my gears. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, like nerd in the sense that like I was supremely devoted and interested to my hobbies and would go very deep on them, which included film and video. Me and my high school friends were making videos. Actually, since middle school, we were making like little stupid shoot 'em ups and stuff, like running around.
Is it like 2008, 9, or?
Graduated high school in 2012. So yeah,
okay,
from like 06 forward, I was like using my dad's like Sony.
Oh, right at the cusp of YouTube, pretty much.
Yeah. But like back then, we thought we were hotshot filmmakers, so we were posting on Vimeo.
Yeah.
We were like, YouTube's for me at the zoo. Like it's not for real filmmakers like us. So we
we'll
had
cut that part out for algorithm.
I had the critically acclaimed Gangsters for Life series where I wore pants that were 3 sizes too big. That was actually how I just used to dress. And we used to have fake airsoft guns and shoot at people. But like that kind of like really cemented my love for like content creation and like just like story and stuff like that, even though it was all horrible as everyone's first works are. But like that's the creative stuff. But to answer your actual question, I was also into cars because my entire family is into cars. So my eldest brother, I have 3 brothers, a sister, and even my dad, like everyone loved cars. And we were very blessed that like my brothers had been like in the Fast and Furious tuner scene and stuff like that. They had Honda Civics that they had like souped up and all that sort of stuff. So I was around it my entire life. And so I loved cars, and loving cars, has an easy pathway to being an engineer and like loving the engineering of cars. And so that's kind of what in my head was like, this is the path forward. I'm going to become an engineer. It's going to be awesome. And I got into a great engineering program at U of I, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign.
Whoa,
And
big
I was
brains,
like, yeah,
man.
So
You're
I was
really a nerd.
Oh yeah, I got waitlisted first, but you know, we got there in the end.
You got there. You got it.
We got there in the end, and so it was like, okay, cool. And literally, I kid you not, this was. I'm almost embarrassed to say it now, but my head as a senior in high school was like, I'm going to become an engineer and I'm going to work at Tesla, the coolest car company in the world. And then, so that was that. I went to college and then I was like, oh, damn, I don't like this stuff. Engineering is hard, man. This stuff is like crazy. You know,
Did you
it's
go
like
mechanical engineering? Or?
So materials engineering. Yeah,
what
so
is
materials
engineering?
So materials engineering is a more specific study of specific materials, and there's certain concentrations, metals, ceramics, biomaterials, things like that, and in their particular properties and implementations into practical engineering.
Got it.
So I was into the metals side of things, and that's kind of where I focused my studies and stuff. And so, yeah, man, like went through college. College was super hard and stuff, but funny enough, I don't remember a single freaking class in college, but what I do remember is I made friends with all the kids in the car club, and then we went buck wild. Like, we were buying cool cars, we would go racing, like actual sanctioned racing, and like I got even deeper into the love of cars from there. And that's kind of, I guess, where like my whole nerdiness thing kind of stems from, in the sense that like I went deeper and deeper into this thing that I already really loved. And I think that's kind of where I realized is like, the engineering thing is cool, but like I don't love it the same way. I just love the cars themselves. Like, I love what makes them tick, and I could take a car apart completely, piece by piece, to the nuts and bolts and put it back together, missing 90% of the parts, but I could do it. But I realize it's like almost the anthropology, etymology, the culture of cars was something that I was more attracted to. And I think that also kind of was rooted in that love for storytelling and film, because I realized with every car that I loved, there was a story behind the car. There was an engineer, a team of engineers that had a vision for what the car would become. And then they used their knowledge of engineering to basically, out of thin air, essentially create something to evoke a particular emotion. And that kind of in my head was like the coolest thing in the entire world, right? And so from there, I was like, cool. And I did nothing with that. That idea was cemented in my brain, but like I was a kid and I was like, I got to finish school. I got to become an engineer. Like, this is the pathway, right? Like, what was I going to do? Make YouTube videos? It's a crazy idea, right? Like, nobody makes money doing that. Even though that was around the time when that inflection point kind of started, right? Like 2012 to 2016 when I was in college. Okay. Right? Like, people started making money on YouTube, right? Like, legit, like more broadly, right? Mm-hmm. As opposed to the very hyper specific. And like, that's kind of when Google started really investing in growing like that whole thing. So I graduated school. I would make little videos here and there. But in 2015, we had an idea for the YouTube channel. We're like, hey, like we should just do stuff on YouTube.
So you mentioned we. Who's we?
Me and my buddy Zane. Okay. So Zane's like my like BFF for life, like butt buddy, like like since we were kids, like we've been just like that. And so me and him share this sort of creative bone, and we're also we very much like are aligned in kind of how we create and how we see things and stuff like that. So we had an idea for, we were really into Good Mythical Morning. You guys know what that is? Okay, we're really into that back then. And then we were like, oh my God, we're gonna do a variety show. And we're like, this was at like an IHOP at 2 a.m, where all great ideas come from, right? And so I was like, okay, cool, variety show, why not? Yeah, we'll just talk about whatever. What are we gonna call it? We're like, oh, okay, what's it about? It's really about it. It's about nothing, right? It's about whatever we want it to be. And we were like, yeah, it's just a little bit of nothing. And then we were like, a little bit of nothing. That's the coolest name ever. And then we were like, okay, but it's really long. So it's like, what's short? Albon. Albon. Okay, cool. And then that's how the name Albon got created. And then we never made that a variety show. Made the YouTube channel. It got parked for about a year. And then it was after I graduated college that we were like, remember that thing that we said we were going to do? Let's do that, but let's make it about cars. We love cars. Like that was the only thing we ever talked about, only thing we ever did. We're like, well, I don't know where this idea, we just wanted to be Rhett and Link. I think that was the thing in that particular moment. So we're like, okay, let's make videos about cars.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how much time was in between you like conceptualizing the idea of like doing something? Like, and then like actually shelving it and then coming back to it? Like how long was that time period?
So I mean, it was, I guess if you really think about it from like where we came up with that Albon idea, it was 2015, like mid 2015. And then by the day, I think it was October 2016 that we actually posted a video on that channel, which was us changing the spark plugs on a 1985 Volvo station wagon. So, you know, really riveting stuff. So,
but then prior to this, like, you were already like very involved in the car environment, the car club, like doing all this stuff. And so like, what made you like, what was the decision-making process of like, hey, we're going to focus on cars versus anything else? Like, was it, how did you come to that conclusion, or was it just purely based off of like your passion and desire of that?
Yeah, I think for sure, just the passion and desire. Also, like, you know, the advice, at least back then, I don't think that advice stands quite as well now if you want to get into like nitty gritty creator stuff, but like niche down, niche down, niche down. Everyone always told you niche down. Make sure you're hyper specific in your niche, especially on YouTube. This was like a big thing back in the day. Everyone used to tell you, if you like this and this, you got to pick one, even if they're like 1 degree separated, because they're like, you're going to make a video about this and then people are going to come for this. Sorry, I'm like pointing at, if people are going to come for A, you're going to make a video about B, and then all those people are going to see B. They're not going to click on your video and the YouTube algorithm's going to go, you're in the garbage, right? And this idea did not end up holding up in terms of the way the algorithm, let's call it. I got a lot to say about the algorithm. Don't want to talk about that, but it didn't end up holding up. But that was the typical sort of understanding of how YouTube worked back then. So we were like, okay, there's only one real niche that we actually care about, and it's cars. So we're like, let's do cars.
Do you think that the like niching down concept was relevant back then, but isn't anymore, or you just think,
correct,
or you think it wasn't never relevant?
No, I think it was probably relevant back then. Again, like I'm looking in retrospect as to how content creation or rather content algorithms functioned. I mean, it's like, it's a black box, right? Like you can't necessarily pinpoint exactly what was, but that was the meta of what was working back then. And so, you know, for all intents and purposes, it was what was working back then. And so we're like, okay, let's do that. And so we did that, and we made 3 videos working on this Volvo, and they got like 200 views, 300 views, which was actually not bad. You know, like it's like more than just like my mom and his mom and then like my brothers, right? It's like, so we're like, okay, there's something there. And then we stopped making videos. And I think this is like a very common story in content creation, which is you get like this excitement, you start, and then you kind of are like, wow, this is a lot of work, and I'm not immediately like Mr. Beast, so I'm going to stop, right? It's like, I'll do this later, you know, whatever. And I was like, you know, looking at engineering jobs, and I actually was working for a startup back then, Pebble. I don't know if you guys remember Pebble, smartwatches. They ended up going under. That's a whole other thing.
I thought they got acquired by Google.
They got acquired by Fitbit, who then got acquired by Google. Okay. And then the original CEO just bought the IP back, and now he's making a new project based off of the original IP.
Currently,
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Eric Mikagovsky, nice guy, very tall. But yeah, so I was working for that. I worked for a bunch of, I only ever worked for startups, which is like a horrible way to learn how like the job industry works. Job industry. I don't even know the side called the job industry, right?
Corporate
it's
industry.
Yeah, exactly.
But don't you think that, okay, well, let me ask this question. Like, do you think that working for all these startups gave you like a quick acceleration of skill sets and growth? Like, do you think that because you had to wear multiple hats at these different places, which is usually what you have to do?
Sure,
do you think it like significantly increased your trajectory, or didn't really do anything for you?
Maybe yes and no. I think there was stuff that I learned at these places, especially about growing companies specifically, in the sense that like there's a lot to it. It's very hard, and there's plenty of gatekeepers, especially with startups. You know, they're all trying to get funding and stuff like that. So that's a whole nother thing. But I think for sure I appreciate my time there because I think I learned a lot more there than I could have just being at some more standard corporate job or whatever, right? Granted, I was never really a proper engineer like I wanted to be, like designing car parts and stuff. So I don't know what that would have been like, but you know, I know people who do that and you know, they say it's all right.
I want to dial back a bit because, you know, one of the things that you mentioned is the feeling of cars and that story that builds there. But also you mentioned everybody in your family loved cars, right? And I know within, you know, our demographic of, you know, car purchases, it always circles around like Toyotas, Hondas, like really, you know, things are very dependable. What does like your family loving cars, right, mean for you guys, right? Did it mean, because I do believe of like a car can have so many stories, right? Like, you know, let's talk about Toyota Sienna, right? That's a great car. It's a great van. But like for my family, that means, you know, family vacation trips to like Disney World or like going to South Padre Beach and like, you know, watching movies on the like long 12-hour hauls, right, as a family. And I think that is such a meaningful feeling. And I think that's what really resonates with you. But what I'm curious about is what did loving cars mean for you and your family growing up?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic, you know, point and question too. For me and definitely for us, again, like, I think it kind of speaks to that idea of saying like cars were not just these inanimate objects that you use. They were not just utilities. They were companions, right? Like cars had personalities. We had a 2000 Toyota Sienna, right? We'd pack that thing with like 13 people. You know, we'd put like the little white plastic stool in the middle of the two middle seats because we didn't have the middle seat, right? Or we'd take the rear seats out and put a small little mattress back there, and all the kids would just sit there and we'd just drive to Chicago. You know, like very illegal stuff. Don't do that. Wear your seatbelt all the time. Very dangerous, right? But like, it was like, it's a 2000 Sienna. It literally looked like a silver egg, right? It was like there was, from an objective standpoint, there was nothing about that car that could have excited anyone. But the things we did in that car were so much fun, right? That car was the companion, the friend that was part of all of those adventures that we went on. Every time we went swimming, we went road tripping, we did anything, right? Like that van was there and the van was dependable, right? It never let us down. You know, I think that thing was at like 250,000 miles when we eventually gave it to someone who needed it. And so it was, I think growing up around, and funny enough, maybe it's because we grew up around the dependable cars who were like always there. They got to be part of your family. Like if you had a car that blew up every 3 years, you'd be like, maybe you wouldn't care about it so much. But like if you had a car that your family's had for 15 years, right? Like it's another kid, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like a whole nother person that like lives in your family with you, right? And because of that, inherently it becomes part of your story. And that feeling of like almost assigning personalities to these cars became kind of just a concrete part of my brain when I kind of thought about cars, right? It's like, I still think about like, we had a Toyota Avalon, right? Like when I think about the Avalon, this is going to be very hard to conceptualize, but like, I think of it as a person. Like in my head, when I think of it, it makes me want to smile because of the, you know, emotional attachments that I had to it, the feelings that it gave me as this like, you know, friend that I had to, you know, driving to high school every day with my sister and like us pouring hot water on the windshield when it iced over and like cracking the windshield and us feeling bad for the car because we did something bad to it. You know, like it's like these silly things that kind of are what are how human relationships work too, right? These small little intricate details that eventually make you create a bond with a person. It's the same thing, in my opinion, with a car. And so that was always the case, and I've always held that to this day. Like every car I've ever owned, I don't name them. Some people really like naming their cars, which is fine if you want to do that. But like, I don't name them, but like, they still feel like friends to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's such an important thing, right? Because I think there is a sense of like gratitude and appreciation that you're having for things that, sure, they're inanimate objects, but they're serving a purpose for you, and they're essentially a blessing that was given to you, right? And, you know, as you're kind of speaking, what comes to my mind is a few stories, right? Like, I think like, you know, Prophet Muhammad's like Camel, right? When it like stopped, and I think it was in Medina where like one of the first masjids were like built, right? Or even Barak, right? In the night journey, right? All are very important, critical elements where essentially a vehicle is allowing you to transport from A to B and is playing a significant role in your story. And, you know, one of the things of like taking care of things, right? You mentioned about like someone pouring something on your car, right? Like that feeling is because you're wanting to take care of something, a blessing that's been given to you. And I don't know what the hadith source is, but it talks about how like, you know, inanimate things will testify for you on the day of judgment. So like when you're cleaning like your dishes, right? If you're doing it gently and with care, right? That dish will testify, you know, be like, yeah, this dude take care of his blessings. Like, so those are things I always try to like think about on things like blessings I have like with my phone and things that I own even. And I think it's something that we can take for granted, I think. And it may come off silly for certain people, but it's a form of showing appreciation for things that you own, and making sure that they last well by taking care of it. But I think what's really great about this is that, you know, when people say they love cars, it always defaults to like performance vehicles, right? Like the Porsches, the Ferraris, and like, yeah, there's an engineering marvel to all those things, but I love your answer because it's like, it's not about that alone, right? It's like what you have most likely for the average listener, that car is actually really, really awesome for other ways that you can't even really, you know, market it per se.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm curious to know more about is that your, I guess, co-founder Zane, right? You guys met when you guys were really, really young, right? So you went towards the engineering direction at Urbana-Champaign. Are you guys the same age? Are you guys in the same? Are you guys worlds apart, or how close were you guys in terms of grade school?
He is 5 years older than me.
Oh, so he's quite your senior. So what did he do in terms of like education? Like, did he go engineering route? Did he pursue higher education? Like, what happened?
So he went the more computer sciencey route.
Okay.
You know, he works doing IT stuff, you know? It's whatever, you know, magical. He types,
the fairies in the board.
He types in the terminals, and then, you know, he's like, okay, I just saved this multi-trillion-dollar company from burning to the ground. And I'm like, that's super cool. I don't know what you just did, but he does that stuff.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
And again, like, he is a nerd, and I mean that in the best way possible, about that sort of stuff, system administration, you know, that crazy, you know, like, and I love that. It's so beautiful to me. And so I think we both kind of have that same, I guess, like,
converging moment.
Yeah, like, in the sense that like we both like have this necessity to like want to like really nerd out about the things that we love. And even though mine might have been a little bit more on this sort of like more physical engineering side, and his might have been more like computer type stuff, like in the end, it's like, I think both of us have a very similar sort of, you know, mindset and persona in that regard. And then we both love cars. So that was the thing that was kind of congruent for us. Yeah.
So when you were like deciding to really pursue this thing with Zane, right? Like, you often hear like, well, one, like, don't go into business with your friends or your family, right? I don't agree with this at all. Like, but this is like a common thing that I think a lot of people hear. Was that like a concern for you, or like, was it like, how did you like decide like, this is the guy? Because I feel like, or how did he decide that you're the guy, right? Like, how did that mutual decision happen? Because I feel like when you're trying to find, you know, someone to work with, it's a very intimate experience, right? You're going to go through a lot of challenges together. Your like conviction of your relationship is going to be challenged at different times. You're challenging each other in positive ways. It's really similar to marriage, to be quite honest. So like, I was curious, like, how did you like vet that? Like, hey, my friend is like, our friendship can stand and outlast whatever this ends up becoming. Like,
Yeah.
How did you guys have that discussion?
That's a great question. It's an interesting thing because, like, honestly, like, probably back then we didn't think about it that much, right? And I've heard the advice or whatever. And funny enough, now, many years later, I also disagree with it, like, completely. I think maybe that is true if you haven't been able to compromise or disagree with that friend, and you haven't been able to come up with solutions together for challenging situations. And then you guys are thrust into a business, and then all of a sudden you don't know how to handle each other, and then problems start happening. But if you have a relationship with someone that is on a level in which you can understand their perspective and their psyche, and like you guys can speak, clearly about your opinions and be they differing or whatever, and like come to a conclusion, a compromising solution, whatever it is, like that's just how things work. Like if you work with anyone, like this is how it works. Like you just got to know how to work with people. If your mindset is always like my way or the highway, like you're going to fail to work with everyone, be they your friends or not. Right. So it's like, for me, I've always found it easy to work with him for sure, because it's, again, like we agree on a lot of things, but if we have like creative or even just like, whatever ideological differences about a particular subject, I'll be like, okay, like, let me know why, like, let's discuss it. Let's figure out like, and if his stuff makes sense, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let's do that. Right. It's like, and maybe people have egos about it or something like that. Like, they just like, no, it's got to be the way I do it. But like, nah, man, like if someone gives me a good idea and it makes my idea look horrible, I'm like, yo, we're doing that. We're doing that. Cause like, I want things to be better. Right. And I know I'm not making the best ideas. Right. I'm just a guy. So it's been great. I've never once has there ever been a point where I'm like, oh man, like working with him sucks, So,
no, I mean, I really agree with you. But I think it depends on your natural personality types. And you said it well, actually. Like, have you had some type of experience where you've had a fundamental disagreement, and then how have you approached it? I mean, I've almost exclusively tried like a million different things with a lot of, and almost all of them are with my friends. And I'm I would say like 98% of people that I've worked with, like they all love it. Like, cause even if it doesn't work out, it's like, there's like these core things that you have to do. Just like communicate, try to anticipate, and then just know that, hey, like whatever's like meant to be will be. And if you're trying to like you can't speak honestly with someone unless if there's a mutual understanding that you both are trying to achieve the same thing. So if there's that like a basis, then I think it becomes a lot easier. Sometimes people like they confuse that basis along the journey, like when there's a fundamental disagreement. But no, that's very interesting. So like so how long have you worked with Zane, and like what's kind of his role, is your role? How does that creative like juice kind of flow?
Yeah. So I mean, like, I guess like since the beginning, we've been like doing obviously the Albon stuff together, and like it's I think it ebbs and flows in terms of like how like this, he has a job, which is great. And I appreciate him for like doing everything, and I was like, I can't have a job. I'm a creative, And so, I mean, I had a job and then I quit my job, but it's like, it's one of those things. And so like, I have the understanding that like there are certain responsibilities that I take on, and there's certain responsibilities that I have, him for, and I will consult him about these things and vice versa. And like, I'll be honest, me and him do a million things together. Again, like you were just saying, it's not just Albon. We do a ton of like our volunteering and charity stuff together. Like we do like so many things. Again, like him and I are just constantly together. So it's just one of those things where, yeah, it's just.
Is your wife jealous of him?
Maybe, I'm not sure. Yes, actually, the answer is yes.
or after like 20 minutes of you talking, she'll probably like, please go to Zane.
Oh yeah, that for sure. If him and I start going off about something, it's like they're out.
I feel like that's exactly what's happening with me and Rimsha right now. She's like, just go talk to Naveed.
Yep. That's how it goes.
So you mentioned something that's really interesting. Like you kind of self-identified as like, I'm a creative. So like I think many creatives, they like self-identified creatives. I feel like everyone's a creative, honestly, if you really get down to it. But like, let's not get philosophical. But like in terms of like, I feel like a creative personality like is very artistic, and they struggle to find ways to monetize their passion. Is that something that you noticed? And how did you how did you guys I guess solve that type of problem, or did it just kind of happen naturally? Like what was, and do you agree with that kind of statement, I guess? Yeah, man, it's not a controversial opinion, but I got a solid opinion about creativity in that regard. I think a lot of people, when they hear the word creative, they think of this idea of like the free creative. It's like, I'm going to quit everything and I'm going to go paint, the mountainsides or whatever, right? It's like art at all costs. I personally, and I was there, I think I felt that. And I think that's kind of the classic, almost
like childish form of creativity. It's like, I just want to draw, right? Like, it's like very simple, very single-minded in that regard. But I don't know who said this, and I'm not going to take credit for it because I heard this somewhere many, many years ago. And whoever said it said that real creativity is not your ability to like color outside the lines and create something amazing that way. It's your ability to take the box that you are given, the same box that everyone else is given, and create the most beautiful thing inside of that box. And I think this idea where it's like the struggling, starving artist or whatever, right? It's like, you know, I need to create, but, you know, the world's never going to be able to appreciate it or whatever. I think that's a completely misguided notion, right? I think your ability to create within the confines of, there's I guess an intersection at which your creativity and its monetizability exists. And I think that exists for everyone, especially nowadays, right? Like, we live in a world where it's like, there is absolutely patrons for your art somewhere, you know? And we live in a time where the internet functions, like, you will find them. You start posting on TikTok, they will find you, you know what I'm saying? And the thing is, I think the more people begin to realize this, the more they're like, they need to understand, like, hey, it's okay if I have to work inside of this box. I will create the most amazing thing I can inside of it. If YouTube and TikTok and, you know, whatever social media platforms or whatever it may be, again, it might not even be social media, the way the art gallery system functions in this day and age, if you're a painter or whatever, right? Like, the way it functions, for you to understand that, understand the path to monetization and what your particular goals are. Again, you don't need to be filthy rich or whatever. I think that's another, you know, American capitalism. You know, it's like, but like, I think everyone can happily make a wonderful income of, you know, reasonable stability, and maybe they have to have another job, whatever, or something. But like, I think everyone can monetize their art in a solid capacity. Some maybe more so than others, depending on what the meta is these days. But like, the idea of a struggling artist, I think, is a completely misguided notion. I think 100% you need to do that studying, figure out the box, and then start painting inside of that box.
I kind of want to expand on the box. And I think as you're kind of mentioning it, because I was like, oh, I kind of disagree, but I agree with you, because I think the box is your identity. I think when we say going outside the box, is actually outside of who you actually are, and sure, people can tap into that. And I think oftentimes, especially in terms of accessibility to your audience and your people, they're out there, right? And so I think, you know, previously, yes, you may have to conform in somewhere format where you're not living to what your true morals or your values or your creativity is, because you're trying to appeal to the masses. But now that everyone has access, you're much able to be more your honest self and be within your box of who you are. Is the better attraction that you'll have to your niche of fans, to your particular group that you're wanting. I feel like oftentimes where people struggle is because they're trying to be someone they're not, because they're trying to conform to someone else's box, right? Did you ever feel, because I think when we talk about businesses, right, there's, and, you know, we're not shakes, but we talk about, you know, riba, like loans and things like that, SBA. But even in the creative space, there's like challenges that exist, right? Has there been a time where you felt like you were going outside of your box in terms of like your morals or your values, and you kind of had to, but you and Zane kind of had to like sit down and be like, actually, this is kind of going against some of our principles. Let's not do that. Like, what could you explain or share some challenges there?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, big thing, like, okay, so we do YouTube full time, right? So YouTube, we make YouTube videos and monetize them through a variety of avenues, namely AdSense, which is just the ads that play beginning, middle, end of your video, and then brand deals, right? Essentially, the job that we have, if you boil it down, it's ad sales, right? So it's like we're selling an ad slot inside of our video, and that's kind of our main pathway to monetization in this particular case. For many years, since we started getting some traction, we have constantly been reached out to by companies that promote gambling or alcohol or whatever, right? Other things, many of the variety of things, weird stuff, you know, the War Thunder or whatever type games. I don't want to call what
you know what I'm saying,
the whole pay to play, like let's
Right,
get children
right.
to like spend all their parents' money
Mystery
or whatever.
boxes.
Yeah. You know, like that. Yeah, the loot box garbage. You know, there's plenty of things that have certainly come our way, and it's like there have been many times again, and like. Another thing with business is like there are times where you're going to struggle. There are times where you're going to feel flush, right? Like everything's going well. And there are times that it's going to be just okay. And there's times that are going to be, you're really struggling, right? Things are not working out. And you're just like, man, I need to get a paycheck. Like rent's due, right? Mm-hmm. And, you know, a DraftKings email comes my way. I don't know, we should be hitting the brands by name. Like I'm subconsciously.
We can bleep those out.
Okay, you know, email comes your way and they're like, it's like, dang, these guys are offering like 60% more than we typically get. You know, it's like the thought comes to mind, right? It always does, right? Inherently, this is the job enough. You know what I'm saying? Like this is it. Like, but then it's just like, okay, even though I'm still just making videos about cars, right? I could throw my hands up in the air and be like, oh, look, you're gonna see the advertisements anyway, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But like, there is haram money, there's halal money, right? And in the end, like I see money coming from these people and it's haram money to me. And that's kind of this, and it's actually, I mean, now that we've kind of come to terms with it and understand who these people are and like the offers and stuff that come in, it's a lot easier now, right?
To say no.
Yeah. Because it's like, alhamdulillah, we're in a place where it's like we've got plenty of other partners that are, you know, nice, normal halal brands that, you know, we can partner with and stuff. But you know, it's one of those things, and it's constantly this, you know, sort of like, man, like we could be making a lot more money if we were doing this thing, right? Little change, you know what I'm saying? Little change. And again, like it's not like we work like one of our other like sort of main partners with Albon, his name's Richard. Amazing human being. He's not Muslim, right? And you know, he has no qualms with gambling or drinking or anything like that, right? Because it's not part of his culture to have anything against that. But he understands that it is for us, right? And he does most of our business development stuff. So he's usually getting he's handling the email inbox. And he knows, man, if a brand comes in, and he will do the research on the brand. If it's some wacky thing that's like, you know, preying on kids, if it's some, you know, alcohol or gambling stuff, he will know. Like, nah, it's a no. It's a no from us. And, you know, that's kind of the sort of, I guess, what do you call it, company culture? I don't know, the kind of, you know, word to use or whatever. I feel icky saying company culture. But, you know, creative culture.
Company vibes.
Just vibes. So, you know, again, it's just those things. And I think it's important for us from the very beginning to make sure that stuff is in play. Like, inshallah, one day we grow and maybe we'll have a lot more employees and maybe a lot of other people handling it. And like, I think it's important for all of those people to understand from the get-go is like, we do this and we don't do this. And they don't understand it as halal and haram, but they do understand it as these guys have a particular set of morals. And like, this is where the line is. So I think that's kind of at least in our industry, that sort of thing, you know, thankfully it's like, you know, we're not getting much more out of that. You know, I'm not getting stopped by beautiful supermodels on the way to work and they're like, oh my God, I saw you do a 35-minute documentary about this, you know, sob. And they're like, oh my God, I love you. You know, hasn't happened yet, but you know, take it.
No, I think everything that you said reminds me of this book that I've been reading recently by Muhammad Faris. It's called The Barakah Effect. And literally like the summarization of it is doing more with less. And he has like this passage where I think it's a exaggerated like example that he gives, but it's like basically this guy sitting underneath a tree. And then two traders walk past him and they're like, hey, you want $1,000 worth of coins? This guy's like, is there barakah in the coins? And they say, no. It's like, no, then I don't want it. They walk past. Next day comes by, they come back with $500 worth of coins. He says, is there barakah in it? No, then I don't want it. Keep going through this iteration until he gets to $2. And he says, hey, do you want these $2 worth of coins? Same question. Is there barakah in these coins? And this time the traders say, yes, there is. So this humble guy comes up and he's like, okay, well, I'll accept it. Thank you so much. Takes those $2 worth of coins, goes to the fish market, tries to buy his food some family, or tries to buy his family some food, and then ends up gutting it, preparing it, finds thousands of dollars worth of gold inside of it, or some type of mineral or something. Pearl or something along those lines, right? And I think what Muhammad Faris is trying to show with this example is that we in our Western society are really looking at things from an inputs and output perspective. It's a purely number driven component, like decision. Like no logical person would say no to $1,000 for free. No logical person would say no to $500 for free. No logical person will say no to gambling ads, like from a business standpoint. But you're neglecting the spiritual component of barakah in those things. So it reminded me of that story. I've been in that situation before a couple of times where, someone pivoted towards an industry that I'm just not a fan of, right? Or that we just like morally disagree with and have had to step away. And I think those are very tough. You said it so well, like your nafs really tests you at that time. But I think we have to kind of remember those concepts of barakah. And that's why like I really love this book. It's just doing more with less, like not necessarily having more capital isn't necessarily going to get you to your end goal. Maybe sometimes like you'll get more reward from just whatever that minor amount is. Yeah. I wanted to share that.
Yeah, no.
Risk comes from one place.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And like if you think it's coming from these people, it's not. You know what I'm saying? It might come by way of those people, but it only came from one place, right? So it's like you gotta follow the rules, man.
And it's written. Whatever's written for you is written for you.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And I think you kind of brought up a good point, though. It's like sometimes you get so target fixated on the sub goal, which, let's be honest, everything that we're doing, business, creating, these are sub goals. The main goal as Muslims is Jannah.
Yep.
Right? You can't get so target fixated that you're risking your akhirah for your dunya. And I think that's something we get really, in the Western space or in a capitalist spaces, you get fixated as that is the North Star, but that is not the North Star, right? And so having the right people around you, having the right support group, keeping you grounded on that reality is really, really meaningful. And I think what you shared is so worthwhile is because the money that you have is just a tool of how you're going to use it, and Allah is witnessing what you're doing, right? So that $2 may be just $2 in the eye of the current market, but translating that to, Jannah currency, that is a mountain of gold, right? So don't forget to do those translations as you're going through these processes or these opportunities. And I think in terms of like risk, even like for me, when you're kind of talking about it, it's like you're gonna get it either way. The test is, are you going to do it in the halal way or the haram way, right? So when I see an offering in a haram way, and I'm like, oh, Allah, I know you got me. I know you got me, so I'm good.
I like that.
That's a great way to approach it,
right?
Honestly.
It's like shaitan's gonna tempt you, but really it's a foreshadowing of what can come to you, whether it be in this dunya or in the akhirah, right? And I think there's a hadith that talks about like someone was talking about because all your du'as get answered, right? Whether it be here or in the afterlife. And someone was talking about like the reward is so much bigger for like the unanswered du'as like in your dunya that the person was saying like, I wish none of my du'as were answered in the dunya, right? None of them. Think about that. How much we make du'a for things in our everyday, and then to reflect and be like, I wish none of this got answered because what you get in Jannah. So inshallah, may Allah take us there. But inshallah. I think it's so, I don't think there's a lot of examples. I don't think we get a lot of opportunities to talk to creatives and the struggles that they have, right? Because I think oftentimes it's very, even for us, right? Like we're on camera, but, we're shy. Are we doing things the right way? Are we doing everything that we can do? What are the other unknown obstacles? Because we also want to be mindful that we do things the halal way, even when it comes to content creation. But I don't think there's oftentimes we get that dialogue with people like you who have kind of ventured out really far into that space and then having a conversation. Now, when it comes to like monetization, you kind of mentioned like ad being like one of the biggest funnels for that. At what point, because you're a married man, right? And inshallah, you have a family soon, right? So when you're thinking about stability, right, and that whole dialogue as a provider in every way, like How does that play into being a content creator? Because your income does fluctuate, right? Like, and I can imagine that being a scary feeling at times, but we'd love to know like how you plan for that and how you project Albon kind of taking you to that level of security that you want, both for you and for Zane.
Yeah. I guess there's like kind of two aspects to this. Like one is like the actual like family aspect, which is like, for me, it's like the transparency between me and my wife has to be, 100% all the time, in the sense that like the more she understands about what I do, how it functions, the more comfortable she's going to feel, because she knows how this business works, right? And she herself is a creative, and she has her own creative business, which is, again, alhamdulillah, I'm very blessed to be with her. And it's interesting in that way. I think it's important that like, it is a very different thing. Like having a job or a business like this, really any business owner, to be totally frank, if you owned a fast food franchise or something, you got your good months, you got your bad months, some, stuff happens, whatever, right? So having those expectations set with your partner and your family and stuff is important from the beginning. And then the second thing is like, obviously, like as your business grows, like certainly in my business, a big thing is like trying to take more control over the, avenues of revenue, in the sense that like AdSense starts out for a YouTuber as the biggest piece of the pie, but it is the most volatile, right? It swings wildly from quarter to quarter, from video to video, depending on how many curse words I said in the video, like stuff like that. I don't curse actually.
The more you curse, the more you get, or how does that
work? Let me test that out right now. And then we started kind of transitioning to the whole brand deal thing, right? A little bit more control. We have our own brand partners that we work with. We have a certain amount of slots of, videos that we create and stuff like that. And then again, moving off platform is, kind of the big thing right now for people in my business, which is like have a paid subscription service or whatever it may be, sell merchandise or create an entire new company that kind of rides off of that, sells some product, blah, 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 right? So, creating stability in that regards by scaling your business or, putting the processes and stuff in place to, move away from the things that are volatile are important too. And again, like these are all things that are a long process, obviously. Like that's how scaling a business works. But I guess overall, it's kind of also just one of those things where it's like, man, you got to just like, sometimes you just got to tell the person next to you like, yo, buckle up. It's going to be a ride, it's going to be a ride. And it has been, 100% it has been, Alhamdulillah, like, again, like I was saying, like there have been times where I felt like I was on top of the world, and there have been times when I was like, dude, like we're done. It's game over, like this is it, hanging up the hat. And then having that, I got that, I'm sure maybe everyone's seen it, it's like the guy mining, and then he's like one little piece of dirt away from the diamond or whatever, having that little mine, that little silly little graphic thing has been in my head. Like
it's good that you don't gamble.
Yeah. I'll be honest,
honey, just one the diamond's right there.
Yeah, I'm realizing now that maybe it wasn't meant for me.
One more loot box.
Yeah, that's it. I'm gonna get the best skin. Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's a big thing. It's a tough thing to explain to people though.
Yeah.
Right? When things are down and looking horrible and the future doesn't look much better, and it's like, don't worry, I got a plan. Like, it's a tough thing for someone else to say, like, okay, I believe you, And even if they do say, like, they're always gonna have a little bit, It's scary. It's a scary thing, especially if it's someone that is depending on you. So again, and that kind of honesty and transparency is kind of a big thing. I think that kind of can settle some of that unease, and I think that's super important. And I guess even beyond the family, with your business partners, the people that you work with and stuff like that. Like if you're a small business, like things are pretty crazy, right? And you have employees, and the way it works is like employees get paid, like they eat first, Yeah. And like there's been many months where it's like you make payroll, and then you're looking at what's left, and you're like, okay, like
another round of ramen.
Yeah, exactly, straight up. And
I think what you're sharing is so valuable, but one of the things I'm kind of curious about is when you're talking about, others eating first and like building this, but one of the things that you had mentioned was belief, right? Like you're betting on yourself almost every month on how things are gonna go with your financials, right? And you're the youngest of 4, is that right? 5, right? Yeah. Youngest of 5. What did your family think? Because mashallah, Allah Mubarak, right? Being a Champaign, great university, engineering in that university is also very difficult, right? Some would say you have a great resume to really do any engineering
anything
industry, man. It's a big thing to walk away from, right? And as a first generation American, what was going through their heads? How were you managing all those expectations? Coming here, it's like, I'm the youngest too of 2, but it's like, oh, the crazy one. Now, can you walk us through what that was like, managing expectations and also managing your own expectations for yourself and building that dream?
Yeah. Youngest, amazing. We can do whatever we want. It's amazing.
I'm the oldest, so hey, wait, we paved the way for you guys.
100%.
All the time. We fight all the battles. We do all the hard work.
You have to do everything. We just go out
to enable you guys to be the best you can be.
It's awesome. Love.
So I think it's a failure when I talk to someone who's the youngest who's not pushing the needle. I'm like, oh God, come on, what are you doing, man?
100%.
Go be riskier.
Go do it.
Why don't you have a gambling problem?
The diamond is right here. It's right there.
It's right there.
It's brought to you by DraftKings. Oh God. Yes, to all those. Well, maybe not that one, but to all those things. It's like, alhamdulillah, man. I am so blessed. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had amazing older siblings, paved the way for me. They went through everyone, and one of my siblings had their own challenges, right? Mm-hmm. Long struggles through life, finding where they needed to be, what they needed to be, right? My eldest brother, who I respect more than anyone on this planet, like, he had to wear every hat imaginable, like he had to be a brother, he had to be a parent, he had to be everything, and he was always like my guiding light throughout my whole life. And so it's funny because like when I kind of was like, so engineering, like I'm not doing that, and again, like I was working for these startups and stuff, like I had a job, I was doing a little okay. And so actually there's a little brief between when I was when I quit my job and Albon was really a thing. I had my own video production business, which was like, I was just like making little videos for like businesses and stuff, little onboarding videos, little, company interviews, the stuff that ends up 3 pages deep on a company website that nobody watches, like that stuff. And it was like, I was like, okay, like this is cool, but like this wasn't the thing that I was gonna, wanting to do. But it was a process, right? And I looking back, I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm glad I went through all that. But man, when I was in that, and everyone was like, so you quit your job at this startup where you were making way too much money to do nothing, and then you decided to do this thing that's a lot of work and you're making a lot less money for the goal of doing this other thing that's even less proven than that. Like everyone was like,
you're crazy.
Yeah, you're nuts. And everyone was just like waiting to pick up the pieces for sure. But my eldest brother believed in me. And and not everyone has that, and I totally get it and like understand. It's super difficult. Honestly, it was because of him. Like I lived with him, we were both in Chicago together, and I lived with him. He helped me, supported me through all my low lows and all that sort of stuff, and that was a huge blessing. But he was kind of the only one. My parents did not believe in me. The rest of my siblings were like, okay, cool. But like, they had their own life and they're like, he's the youngest, so we'll figure it out, But like everyone else, nah, man. And I don't blame them for that. Yeah. Sometimes I'd be looking at people, I'm like, sure about that. But no, it's like having the conviction that you are going to do that thing needs to be completely irreverent to the opinions of the people around you. And that is so crucial, I think. Like being able to just say to yourself, like, I'm going to do this thing, and obviously have a plan and do it sensibly. But at the same time, like, again, like if you're young, like you're going to do stupid stuff. You're going to make mistakes. And that's the thing. Like mistakes are good, man. Mistakes are like the things you should be hanging on your wall. They're not things you should hide. They're the sort of, milestones that get you to where you need to go. And like people are not going to believe in you. And like it took a long time. Like I don't think my parents were like okay with me doing YouTube stuff until like I had been doing it like full time for like maybe 4 years at that point. Yeah.
4 years, man.
And they were just waiting to like, okay, man, he's gonna move in anytime soon. Actually,
they say like push out like the first 10 episodes or something. Your parents have a much higher criteria.
100%. And again, like, alhamdulillah, I had my brother. I had the jobs and the film production stuff, and like, but again, like, I had to be okay with that. And sometimes it hurt, like, of course it hurt. But at the same time, it's like I had to really unlearn this idea that I needed the validation, which is hard. And I still, to this day, I think everyone struggles with that, right? But I think I've become, for sure, a person who really, like, I can be like, hey, I believe in this thing. And like, if nobody else does, like, it really doesn't matter. Maybe a little bit. My wife, for sure. Her opinion's top, Everyone else, nah. Like, if I really believe in something, and then alhamdulillah, I think I'm at a point now where it's like, if I come up with an idea, it's usually pretty well thought out because I've put in the reps. I kind of understand the framework of this stuff. But like, it's hard, man. I think a lot of people, that low period is where a lot of people end up dropping out, I guess, let's call it, of this creative journey. And I got nothing to say, but the diamond's right there on the other side of the dirt. It's like, I don't know what else to tell you.
Keep digging, baby.
No, it's true. Like, I mean, in terms of like you have to be comfortable to fail. Like, you just have to.
Yeah.
You're going to learn through the experience, and then you have to pivot and then keep learning. So I think the creator journey is like so similar to the entrepreneur journey. It's like the same thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Especially nowadays. Now it literally is the same thing.
I often say being a creator is a much more difficult entrepreneurial journey. And I say that is because in terms of how you make money, it's a little bit of a mystery that you figure out near the end once you have your audience, because that's when you're trying to figure out what your audience actually wants from you, right? I think when it comes to like building a business, you generally have like a starting point of a product, and then you can pivot and shift it and make it better. But as a creative, you may start with, like you're talking about, right? You're trying to be a mythical morning show, and then before you even start play, you just realize, oh wait, we're making episodes on cars now, right? Like, it's completely shifting in another direction. But one of the things that when we talk about support and believing, right? Like, was there a moment where you didn't believe in yourself when you were going this journey, and how did you pull yourself out of that?
2 weeks ago. Yeah, man. 100% there were many moments, right? It's like, again, like when things are like really not working out, it's either like, okay, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna plan, I'm gonna try to figure out, pivot and create a solution here, or you're like, hey, I'm gonna quit. Like, I could just go get a job, or whatever. Alhamdulillah, it's like it's doable, it's possible, but I don't think I could tell you exactly what it was, right? That was like the thing that kept telling me to like keep going or whatever, and I don't know if it's an intangible thing that maybe exists in some people, or if it's just something that is inherent of your situation or whatever, right? But for whatever reason, in my head, it was always like, just figure it out, dude. Like, figure it out. Let's keep going. Let's figure it out. Let's keep going. And maybe that's just, and again, maybe it's made up. Everything's made up. Everything in your head is made up, right? It's like, the only thing stopping you between considering yourself a failure and I got to quit and do this, or like, hey, I could probably figure it out next time, keep going, is literally just you talking in your own head. And if you get to the point where you're just like, you only got one speed, and that's like, no, I'm going to do this, and you just keep telling yourself that day after day, week after week, year after year, like I guess that's what gets you to the other side. And like, I hate, like, there's no like 5 secret hacks to, make sure you get over the hump of starting your business, whatever.
We're going to title this episode just that.
5 secret hacks. Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
5 secret hacks. How to be the best content creator.
If you want to become a millionaire as a content creator, step 1, start with $2 million. So, yeah, and I kind of hate that answer.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I had like this thing. I could pull it out and give it to you. Like, you hold on to this and you'll get through to the other side.
But just
it's in here. It's somewhere in this area,
yeah.
It's
in the mango
drink.
juice.
Just keep drinking it.
And our sponsor for this video
Is not DraftKings.
not DraftKings.
Absolutely not.
I think we talked about this years ago, and it's, I think, a really important lesson. So when you're going through like brand deals and things like that, right, which is a major source of income, and you had mentioned you put brand deals within your video, right? What is like the contractual structure for those things? And was there a time where you learned a really big, costly lesson of, oh, I should have formatted this contract a little bit better?
Yeah. I'll be honest, we haven't made a massive mistake, but for sure we've kind of had to refine the process or whatever. In the sense, I think a big thing was like, okay, contracts, crazy stuff. Like, I'm sorry, as someone who has no legal understanding, legal background, right? Like, if you just go in and now all of a sudden a company's like, hey, we're going to pay you real US dollars.
These are $1 billion brands.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Yeah.
Like our first brand deal was actually, again, like it was with a smaller company called Auto Tempest. They do like it's like a search for cars to buy kind of thing, right? Awesome. I was talking directly with the CEO. This was like a small company or whatever. And like, he was awesome, great, believed in us. So we had no issues there. But the thing is, like, that was a bad first experience because it was so smooth and he was so nice. And he made sure he wasn't screwing us in any way. He paid us way more than we were worth. Like, it was a horrible first experience because it was so good. Going forward from there, turns out you have to read the contracts. Like, I'm going to read this thing that has like words that are like 4 syllables long. That's crazy. You know what I'm saying? I'm a guy that draws pictures. Like, I don't read words.
Can we color grade these letters?
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Can you put this contract in a box?
Yeah, put it in a box. It's like, I can tell you if I like that font or not, but like, I couldn't tell you what it says. So I think that was the learning curve because like, oh, this is a big one. If you're a creator and you're doing contracts with businesses, intellectual property or license to your name, image, likeness in perpetuity. Oh man, these guys are sneaking stuff like that into contracts. It's like that you just sold yourself forever and all of eternity because of a $1,200 brand deal that you wanted to do or something, right? It's like, that's crazy. And like learning that from the beginning, and then also learning you stand your ground. If there's something that like, hey, this needs to come out of the contract, you say it very clear English. Obviously, like, be nice in the sense, like, be cordial, but like, you got to make sure that when that contract is signed, it's exactly where you need it to be, and not one, iota left or right. In the sense that, like, in some way that's going to come back to bite you, right? Obviously, like, the price, whatever you negotiate and stuff like that. But that was a big thing. Learning, because like these guys use lawyers. I don't use a lawyer. I use me, and now I use me and Richard. And neither of us are lawyers.
And now it's me, Richard, and GPT.
And ChatGPT. That's 100%. I'm like, hey, Gemini, am I getting screwed here? And then Gemini's like, this Google contract, nah, not screwing you in any way, shape, or form. Don't worry about it. So that was a big thing for sure. I think we never got screwed because we kind of learned early on. We had a couple things where it was like,
this could have been better.
This could have been better. Stuff like that. Yeah, like definitely like we gave them a little too much, like a couple, like, we gave them like these integrations. It was like too much, not worth the money, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. Some brands are also just difficult to deal with. You should make sure like, hey, we only get like 3 revisions or 2 revisions or whatever in the edit. But some of them it's like unlimited and they're coming back and they're like, yeah, so like, I didn't like the way you said this. Can you just re-record it? I'm like, re-record it to what? They're like, same thing, just say it differently. I'm like, say it differently how? And it's like, just say it differently. And I'm like, it's like
Simpsons scene with Homer and Bart.
100%. We've had some brands where it's like, we were straight up like, if objectively the money was good and what we gave them was good, but like the email conversations that poor Richard had to deal with in between, he's like, we're never working with these people again. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, okay, fair enough. And it's, I guess these sort of nitpicky things for me, and I guess maybe that's just inherent of running any business, but maybe as creatives, we come in a little bit less knowledgeable on the business side of things, right? In terms of contract law and all that sort of stuff. And I think it's important, get up to speed with that stuff as fast as you can. Again, ChatGPT, dude, like you'll figure it out, but it's like, we have plenty of tools at our disposal to figure out these very complicated things nowadays. But certainly where everyone, when you start, don't get screwed.
Do you feel like when you're putting an ad into a video, right? I'm assuming you have to turn off like monetization, right? Because you can't have like a competitor's ad showing up. Or
no. So some brands have asked about that, but it's not industry practice for us.
Okay, gotcha.
So we keep AdSense monetization on. Like that is just how it works for YouTube. It's like everyone understands that. We've had a few. We were trying to work with Castrol, who's owned by BP, by the way, and we ended up having a meeting with like 3 BP like senior marketing executives or whatever, and they were like, you gotta whitelist us here, turn off all your monetization here, and all this stuff. And then they gave us like this whole like hour-long spiel of all the things we could and couldn't do. And then I was like, okay, cool. And then they just immediately lowballed us like 20% of what our asking was after that. And they're like, it'll be great for you working with BP. You're gonna get a lot of brand exposure. And I was like, oh man, I'm gonna just it's like, yeah, we'll get back to you. And you know, it's like companies are happy to screw you at any given time. But like, you know, it's you know, it's just one of those things. Where,
you know, I think that's a unique phenomenon with those like higher tier brands.
Yes.
Right. Like even as like I've been on the corporate side on some of these deal structures, and even if like you're a successful SaaS company on the stock exchange, that if you're working with like a major you know, company like Exxon or BP or anyone, they're just like, hey, the brand name is really good for you, and it is. I mean, like, yeah. Yo, I still got to eat.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
and hey, you're also making my life difficult because I have to work on all these processes and adjust it to you. And then you're also like, I can't do monetization here. Like that's.
I feel you would want to overcompensate then to make up for monetization. Because what if like your video goes viral, right? Because sometimes there'll be clauses too where it's like, oh, you know, no monetization, let's say for like the first like 6 months or something, right? And then after that you can turn it on. And then let's say your video goes viral for 2 million views those first 2 months, you just lost on revenue.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then then you're just gonna SOL that.
Well, I think a lot of those brands, they have a dollar value associated with their brand. Right? Well, I don't know how they value it.
Yeah. Sometimes they'll cap the CPM.
But they'll be like, hey, that's how good our brand name is.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, but you're so hard to work with.
So. BP, no thanks. Exxon, no thanks. You guys are in the business of destroying the planet. So glad we said no to that one. Am I allowed to just like?
Yeah, I mean,
say whatever you want, man.
If you're okay
super
with
anti-capitalist.
You're in
on
Texas.
Here?
This is a free country.
Exactly. I'm
anti-capitalist. Globalize the intifada. Can I say that?
You can say whatever you want, man.
Zoran?
See here?
Where are you visiting next? But I think that's, you know, it's such a interesting like world, right? Especially going in as a creative, because I feel like you're kind of going into a territory where you're probably going to be preyed after and taken advantage of, right? Yeah. Have you found like a mentor in this space as you were growing that you could kind of lean on for guidance? You know, even as I made my content creations, one of my really good friends like Mikkel, right? We were very different demographics. Like she's like, you know, small town Christian girl, right? But she's a monster at deal structures for ads. And I learned a lot from her in that sense. And so that's who I kind of usually go to for advice, or sometimes even reach out to you. But who did you find as like a person that you can kind of rely on? Like, hey, I'm growing a lot faster than expected. Can you give me some pointers? Right?
Yeah. Man, unfortunately at the beginning, no one. Oh, wow. Maybe it was just the timing. I didn't know anyone. And so it was really, that was tough because we spent, I mean, from 2016 to 2020 was a whole lot of spinning of our wheels, right? It was like, we were not getting much of anywhere, right? And so it was, I wish I had maybe someone more experience to bounce ideas off of and get better ideas. But funny enough, like once we did start to get some traction and stuff like that, eventually my peers who also were in the same space as I was, right? So like other automotive content creators and stuff, inherently, like as you become a name that they recognize, you know, they might respond to your DM every now and again, right? And alhamdulillah, I've been very blessed, like the automotive content creator niche, like everyone's super friendly. Like by and large, like everyone is happy to chit chat, and like I've been super, super, super blessed. There's a lot of like people on YouTube that have been so helpful to me. You know, just other channels, people from other channels that have just, you know, I've just DM'd them and be like, hey, dude, like, can we chit chat about this, you know, or like, hey, like, can we just jump on a call and do this sort of thing? And like, don't be afraid to ask. Like, yeah, you might just get left on red, whatever. Who cares? Just go DM someone else.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and I think I wish maybe when I was in that early phase, maybe I had been a little bit more of a go-getter and trying to find those people and like just reach out to them. Cause I feel like they probably would have been happy if someone reached out to me and like, you know, had like a 0 subscriber channel and was like, hey, I need some help. I'd be like, yeah, sure. You know, no problem. Let's just, you know, I shoot you some text messages, give you some guidance, whatever. Like, always happy to do that because I love this stuff, right? It's like this is my bread and butter. It's my passion. So maybe this is a good, you know, in retrospect, if you're starting out, like, and you don't have anyone IRL that in real life that I'm such a millennial, man. That you know
I am too. Don't worry.
Oh my god, dude. So
TTYL.
Oh my god. Day by day, I realize how old I am, and I'm like, oh god. But yeah, so reach out. People of the internet are very nice, by and large, I think.
Have you found like a lot more like Muslim content creators, like I guess locally to like DFW, or people I guess even throughout the United States like reach out to you for advice, or I guess do Muslims know, or like your channel, do they know that you're Muslim, and like has newer generations come up to you for guidance, and or is that not really a channel that exists fully yet?
Yeah, that's a good point. So like I'm not like I go by Guff, right? Guff is a very like, I mean, it's like a name. It's like Dr. Seuss, right? It's like, it's not like, no one recognizes immediately that I'm Muslim. Also, everybody thinks I'm Latino. So, and that's always been my entire life. That's always been the case. And like, which is fine, you know, because, ¿por qué no? You know, it's like, it's a great thing to be, right? So,
Meme that in our turtles.
So I think maybe that might be I don't think specifically people have reached out because like, oh, you know, at least people who don't know me because like, oh, you're Muslim and you're a content creator. But as far as people I do know and like younger people that want to get into content creation, like people from the community and stuff, yeah, for sure. I think people have reached out to me and then also reached out to my wife because she is also, alhamdulillah, a successful content creator in that regard. Especially because she's also a woman and like, for girls, it's like, it's different, right? Like, it's like it's a different struggle entirely.
Especially as Muslim women.
Especially as a Muslim woman. You know what I'm saying? And like, my wife's a hijabi. She's Muslim. No matter if she's on video, everyone knows she's Muslim. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, for me, it's like, you know, that's Juan Pablo. You know, it's like, it's no problem.
Or a little tupi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, unless I got the thing, right? So it's like, so alhamdulillah, like, yeah, like I think that's a wonderful thing, and like, man, I wish more people did, because like I know a lot of, I mean, now, you know, whatever, like the Zoomers were polled like 90% want to be content creators. Like, this is the wrong number, but like, you know, it's like a significant amount of young people that are like, I want to be a YouTuber when I grow up, which is great. I don't want to feel like I'm mocking that. I am a YouTuber, but come ask me questions, man. I know I'm like a boomer, as I've just demonstrated here, but like, you know, it's like I want to answer all the questions about that sort of stuff, because it's like, otherwise it's just here. I needed to get out, man. I need more space for other stuff. You know, it's like, I'm happy to talk about it with whatever. And that's why this is amazing too, right? In the sense of like, now you guys have created a Muslim space for people who are entrepreneurs and, you know, in my case, content creators or whatever, to be able to send all the knowledge this way or whatever. So super important, because, oh man, this is a whole nother like tirade I'm going to go on. Can I go on a tirade right now? Oh, okay. Yeah. It's not a tirade. It's like it's in a little aside. I have like an idea in my head, which is like, alhamdulillah, our community, we're, you know, second generation, now third generation Muslims in America and stuff like that. We're doing pretty all right. You know what I'm saying? Like, alhamdulillah, like our parents were like, doctor, lawyer, engineer, and like spammed it, and like everyone became doctors, lawyers, engineers. I'm like, damn, everyone's doing pretty good. So those, alhamdulillah, amazing, mashallah. It's like, so now the people who are the kids of those doctor, lawyer, engineers, like, yo, you got a nice little safety net now. It's time for us to stop being doctors, lawyers, engineers. I mean, you could do that if you like, but it's time for us to get into culture. You know what I'm saying? It's time for us to become influencers. It's time for us to become, I don't know, politicians maybe. You know, a little mayor in New York. Why not? You know, it's like, it's you know what I'm saying? I think we're in an interesting inflection point potentially where it's like we live in the age of influence, right? And now we have all these Muslim people who are perhaps interested in artistry, content creation, other, call them, non-conventional avenues of life, not the doctor, lawyer, engineer. And I'm like, man, it's time for y'all to do that. You know what I'm saying? If we got more Muslim politicians and Muslim people, all the Huda beauties of the world. I'll be honest, I don't know nothing about Huda beauty, but her name's Huda, so I'm assuming she's Muslim. So, you know what I'm saying? Like it's important in the sense that like we need to be visible, right? Like, cause like otherwise there's one speed for the idea of what a Muslim is, and it's terrorist in America at the very least. And nothing has been more clear that is still the case than looking at Zoran stuff. You know what I'm saying? The entire left and the entire right was like,
even though statistically it's untrue.
Right, exactly.
Through,
like,
right? Yeah.
It's an African brother right here. You know what I'm saying? Like this dude has nothing to do with anything, but he's like jihadi. It's gonna be white boy jihad summer in New York City. It's going crazy. It's like it's insane.
Right.
But like, if you guys want to change minds, it's like people need to be more. There need to be more Zorans.
So let's talk about that, right? Because I think it's easy to say, right? And I think to your own experience with your own family, only one really came batting for you, your older brother, right? How can we, and you're involved with your community, right, actively, how can we as a collective ummah, right, help nurture and grow that, right? What does that look like in your mind of helping creating that space?
Yeah. I'm not a parent, so I can't speak on that in terms of like, obviously you want your kid to be secure, successful, have a good, fulfilling life. For maybe my parents' generation, and maybe it's the same for you guys, it's like, for them, it was like fulfilling life means we came over here and risked a lot so you guys can then do a thing that like cements you, guarantees that you are going to be set and your kids are going to be set, right? Which was highly educated, high paying jobs, et cetera, right? I see that and I'm like, yo, that makes a lot of sense, So for me to say the thing that I just said, it's like, it's kind of, it's ridiculous from their perspective. And like, for me, it's like, okay, like if I'm a parent now, like how do I come to terms with those two things? And maybe the only reason I can say it now is because alhamdulillah, I became a content creator and whatever. I work in this space and I'm supporting myself. I'm doing okay, alhamdulillah, and inshallah it'll only grow. And I see the industry as a whole, and from where I'm sitting, it's only going to get bigger, right? Content creation and the monetization of content creation and that sort of thing is only going to increase. As such, why don't we get in on a little bit of those dollars? You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, for me, it's like...
Get a piece of the pie. Everyone's eating.
Exactly.
Right?
100%.
Yeah,
And again, I completely understand. It will be a difficult thing to take what's in my head and maybe our heads and be able to translate that to maybe the layman or whatever. Someone who maybe has a more traditional understanding of that sort of thing. And maybe this is a slowly but surely thing. Maybe we need to lead by example. And maybe this is a big thing, right? If we see people prominent, who are all the prominent members of our community at our centers and stuff? They're all like doctors and stuff, you know what I'm saying? Especially brown people, you know what I'm saying? They're all doctors. And like we look at this guy and we're like, dude, like this guy's awesome. He's here. He built this entire wing of the masjid, you know what I'm saying? And he was a doctor. So it's like inherently you're going to have a lot of reverence for this, I guess, career path in that regard, because it's like, wow, he did a thing, he was successful, he had a lot of impact. If now the west wing of the masjid is called like it's not going to be called the Guff Albon whatever thing, but it's like it like if someone who is a content creator, let's say, is the guy that like people see and look up to in the community, like inherently you're going to be like, hey, maybe this is a pretty reasonable thing.
You're going to get curious.
You're going to get curious, and you're going to feel a little bit more secure in the sense that you've seen someone that's done it, that's made it, right? And inherently now maybe that looks like more of and even I guess for our peers, not necessarily just a kid looking up, but even for our peers, like, my friend who did become had a more traditional job, he sees me and like we're both doing well for ourselves. So he's going to say like, oh, hey, I thought it was stupid before, but like, hey, clearly it works.
I mean, I think it's such an important part when you're talking about, like, us getting in this space of attention, right? Like, attention is currency. And, when we talk about, I know we're talking about capitalism a lot, but I'm currently reading more of like Lenin's work right now. I'm going to really deep here. Yes. But it is the hoarding of resources, right? And from a general perspective of capitalism, that is what it is. Get as much as you can get so others can't get. I think the frontier that we're in right now is also the hoarding of attention, your attention, that your attention is currency because your attention is data, right? And if we're, as an entity, always consuming, the Muslim entity, if we're always just digitally consuming, we're giving away our attention currency to those who do not have an Islamic frame of mindset. And that's very important because then we could be taken advantage of, right? Whether we like it or not. And, one of my favorite statistics is that of all those who participate in any forums, only 1% are creating, 99% are consuming, right? And so with that in mind, there is a space for you to come and speak and be part of the conversation and take part of acquiring the attention currency of everybody else who's consuming. Now, when it comes to your journey, because I think this is a tackle or a lot of challenges people have, is that I'm just a voice and there's already so many people talking about that, right? Yeah, you love cars, but there's so many people who love cars. There's so many people who already make videos about cars. What makes you so special at Guff, right? How did you... Because I think when people answer that question, I think inherently they feel narcissistic by answering it. I personally don't think it's a narcissistic perspective if you believe you should be heard, right? How did you navigate that, or how would you advise people to kind of get past that mindset?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, it's one of the, more difficult things to answer or maybe to convince someone of, in the sense that I agree. And I'm sure we've all even struggled with that at the beginning of our, content creation, or even a beginning of our, journey of putting our opinions out there in any capacity, right? It's like, why would anyone want to listen to me? But I think that's just man, I'm trying to distill this into kind of, I guess it's look, people don't look at you and then people don't, okay, I'm not going to look at you, Mr. Naveed, and then be like, yeah, he's just a guy. He's the same as every other guy ever. You know what I'm saying? You're still you. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Every single person on this planet has some unique flair to their personality, some uniqueness of them that exists. That's just intrinsic of the individuality of human beings, right? And I think the thing that people need to understand is somewhere out there is somebody who's going to see you. And you might not know them, and you might have never met someone in your entire life that feels this way, but somewhere out there, someone's going to see you, and they're going to be like, yo, this guy, this dope. Is the one.
There's a lot of people that think that.
Yeah. For him, it's almost everyone. 99.9%. And I'm part of that 0.1. And I think it's a difficult thing to grapple with because, but the internet is vast. Mm-hmm. There are billions of people on there. You know what I'm saying? And I watch videos of guys who they're 3.5 hours long, and it's a guy, some old Midwestern white dude who goes to a field in Idaho and finds this rusted out 60s Mustang or something, and then spends 3.5 hours just fixing it. No music, no nothing, no cuts, nothing. And I will sit there, and I will just 100%. If there was ever
no light, nothing.
They're filming with a phone. You know what I'm saying? Nothing. And 99% of people probably look at that and they're like, dude, come on. This guy doesn't have a personality. He's doing something super dumb. There's nothing here. 3.5 hours. You crazy? You got nothing better to do? I will sit there and watch every 3 hours, 29 minutes and 67 seconds of that content. You know what I'm saying? I will watch the entire thing.
Yeah.
Why? I don't even know, dude. I genuinely could not tell you why I do that. But there is something when I see that guy, I'm like, yo, this is it. This is dope. I love this. I love this guy, and I love what he's doing.
It's so interesting because, like, my mom, right, for example, she has this one lady in France. She's like this Bengali lady, and she'll just sit down and just like eat like food. And it's not even an ASMR video. She's like eating food. She's just talking about her day.
Yeah.
And my mom will just have it on as background noise. And it's like a 40-minute video of this woman eating. My mom is like talking to a friend in the patio, or then like walks over and does some cooking. But this video is playing, right? And that woman in France eating rice and dal is making six figures because of people like my mom, right? 100%. And it's amazing. It's the easiest way to like give people any sort of extra income, right? And I think that's the things, like, people get fixated on making their artistic journey or their creative journey or making content their main source of income, which if that happens, alhamdulillah. But we also have to remind ourselves, like, the average American is a paycheck away from complete financial crumble, right? So if you're getting another $200, $400, $500 a month additional to whatever you're making, that adds up to a lot, right? Don't diminish the little that you can make because you're comparing it for how much others are making. And I think that's something we need to like ground ourselves on. It's like, what is your own unique personal journey? Yeah. And, sticking to that.
Absolute fallacy to think that everyone's going to become Mr. Beast. Right. It's
right.
like, that's just not going to happen. But it's like, also like, we need to deprogram that from our brains. We don't need to have billions. We don't need to accumulate and hoard all the resources. You know what I'm saying? There's a guy. His name's Karl Marx. I'll leave that there. But
I think that's the important part, right? Is like trading and making sure that you're providing for your community in like some way or format beyond like what you're accumulating, right? You gotta have a mindset of not growth purely as an individual, but what does growth look as a community, right?
Exactly.
You're talking about an example of like, okay, what if I create spaces where people can understand what content creation means? For me, content creation started happening in high school when I was in newspaper, and we had like, PGTV and like yearbook. I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun. I didn't know you could do these things. I didn't know there was a career path in these things. Like, as a freshman, I got to interview Peter Bergen, right? Who was like one of the first guys who interviewed Osama bin Laden, right? And I thought it was a really cool experience, right? But, at that time, there wasn't any really Muslim TV host or anything like that, right? But now, alhamdulillah, there's so many. Like, I think one of our local Dallas news reporters is like a hijabi Muslim lady, right? So it's really cool to kind of start getting that presence across the board, across the nation.
Yeah.
So I want to ask a question that I think I struggled with, and I sometimes still do. I'm new to like this content creation game. Like Naveed has convinced me that this is the way to go. So here we are. But I think in general, like one of the reservations that I had about it was like this concept of being super public, and like what that means, the implications. Does my family save? I guess for you, it's like a little bit different because you have your wife that's also a content creator and you, but there's like, she's a hijabi. There's still like some safety concerns and things like that, right? So I was wondering like, how much did that like play a role in your decision-making process about trying to pursue this path, like the evil eye and things that we hear, right? Like, and what do you like, what's your opinion about all of that? Like, do you think that those are things that we should be concerned about? Have you experienced anything? Like, I would love to just kind of hear your take on it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure. I think one of the biggest things to understand with being public on the internet in whatever capacity is you trade time, you trade effort, you do trade privacy as well. That is 100% one of the things you do pay with. Privacy is something that is 100% diminished in some capacity. It's different for everyone, right? And I guess I have a great example, which is between me and my wife. I do car content, broadly appealing. I mean, my demographic is 18 to 34 males, mostly Americans and British people, English speakers, whatever, right? It's like, okay, cool. But that demographic is actually quite broad, right? Even though it's whatever specific. Her content appeals to South Asian, mostly Muslim, but also, other South Asian faiths, Hindus and whatnot, but because it's Urdu Hindi content. But she will get stopped and asked to take a picture with every single place we go if it's anything brown or brown adjacent. You know what I'm saying? If we are at Upland Bazaar, okay, if we're at Indo-Pak, you know what I'm saying? If we're at a shadi or a wedding, you know, and
we're on the border. What's happening?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. For me, it's like I got ICE that want to ask about me, and that's about it, right? And so it's like, you know, that's a whole nother thing. But so it's interesting though, because if you look at it objectively, I got more followers than she got. Just saying. I do not get
Really?
stopped.
It's about quality, not quantity, my
Yeah,
friend.
exactly. Clearly, this is the case. I don't get stopped. You know, people don't come ask me for my autograph or whatever. On occasion, if I'm in a hyper specific car meet or whatever or something like that, someone might be like, aren't you that guy that makes videos or whatever? I think I've seen one or two of them. Like, okay. I mean, could you be any more specific? There's a lot of people that make videos. It's like, I don't know, whatever. And that's it. That's my interactions, you know? And when I first started out, I was like, oh man, I want to be famous. Like, I want to sign all these autographs and stuff. I was a little kid, right? But now I'm like, man, this is great. Nobody knows who I am. And maybe that will change because, again, as we continue to scale and grow, more of that privacy is going to get traded for this wider reach, let's call it. But in her case, because of her niche or whatever it may be, it's like she's given up a lot more of that in a shorter amount of time than I have. And it is a little bit of a concern.
Especially as a female.
Especially as a female, you know what I'm saying? And so it's, alhamdulillah, she hasn't really had any, you know, bad experiences per se, right? I mean, bad if you go to Urwa or like Big Dash or something, like I gotta sit down because like there's gonna be a line forming to get pictures with her. It's crazy, you know. Alhamdulillah. But like, you know, also like, come on.
Yeah.
She's great, but like, no. So again, like it's an interesting thing, and I cannot prescribe you what the cost will be for you and what you do. But I will say it is a concern, and it is something you should take note of. It is something you should be prepared for, that inherently some level of privacy will be given up in exchange for being public on the internet. And such is the way of the internet. The only bad experiences I had was back in the day when I lived with my brother, when I was still a very small content creator. We lived in a house right off of like a main road in Chicago, in the suburbs. And inherently, our garage basically just opened up to the main street. Very busy road, Army Trail Road. It was like, you know, if you were from the, you know, northwest suburbs of Chicago, you know that road. And people would see the cars in the driveway if the garage was open, and it happened numerous times. They'd be like, I seen that car on the internet somewhere in a video. And they would rock up into our driveway and start looking at stuff. Usually it was like younger kids or whatever, right? And I would like come outside and be like, yo, like, who the F are you? You know, like, how about like, let's start leaving.
That's how you figured out in Texas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like, hey man.
Off my porch.
Illinois loves the guns too, don't get me wrong. But like, yeah, you know, it's no castle whatever, doctrine or whatever. So, and that was a little weird, you know, like that. I mean, it happened to, I think maybe 3 times or something like that. But each time I was like, and they were like, oh, I think I've seen this car. It's so cool. I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. Hey, nice to meet you.
This isn't the cars you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, you know, if y'all could please leave, no worries, right? And so we ended up moving into like, you know, away. Not because of that,
yeah.
but it was a nice byproduct that like that didn't happen anymore. And that was when I had like maybe 30,000 subscribers on YouTube or something like that, which is not an insignificant amount, certainly, right? Like some of these videos had gotten many, many views, but that was scary. It felt very scary because it was real, right? It felt real. It's like, oh my God, somebody knows where I live. You know what I'm saying? What if someone comes in, they're like, I hate Toyotas,
Yeah,
you know?
found it, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. And that was the thing. Like, it was inherent. Like, people just drive by and they'd be like, do a double take. And they'd be like, I've seen that car before, right? And so it's like, it was one of those things. So, man, it's who knows what the future holds, right? Like maybe the future will be if we scale and alhamdulillah we're super successful. It's like no matter where we go, it's going to be awful, and like we can't sit down in a restaurant, me and my wife, without getting, you know, harassed by somebody. I mean, not harassed, whatever, but like, you know, it's the reality of the internet. You know what I'm saying?
What does the future look like for you and Albon? Like, what does the next year, 5 years ahead look, right? Because I think when you start your journey, you're just like trying to get to certain goalposts,
scrapping,
right? But now you're making alhamdulillah halal income full time. You're able to provide for your family, for yourself, comfortably. What's like the next level of growth for you?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question because like we have our 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year plans and stuff, and whatnot, and we've obviously discussed that between everyone at the company and stuff. But sometimes I'm just like, man, like you kind of have to. You're like obviously like grow, scale up. Let's do it, right? We need to hire. There's a couple hire specific that we want to get to eventually as we grow and have a little more revenue. Scale the company up. Nothing too huge. I don't think Albon will ever be more than like 15 people maybe, and even that's a lot, right? If we were 6 and getting by with doing everything,
and these would be full-time
employees, right? And so that would be amazing. But we have a plan in terms of like our content strategy, what we want to make. We have things that we aren't currently making that we would like to make, but would require more budget and more staff, like having full-time videographers and editors and stuff like that. So there's a plan there, but man, sometimes I'm just like, what if we did less? Like what if there was a way I could just like, sometimes there are people, okay, like the, what's that girl? She does she has a coffee company. She does the vlogs or whatever. Oh man, what's her name?
I mean, there's Emma Chamberlain. Oh, okay.
That's the one. Yeah. She makes videos of her sitting on her bed and her couch for like 75 minutes.
Yep. I mean, she got really popular during COVID, right? Because it was.
Sorry, I'm showing. I'm a boomer.
She was one of the most first and early like TikTok stars during COVID. And her whole thing was just very authentic, organic, her chilling in bed and just yapping and just like having coffee as she's making her morning coffee, and that became her brand, coffee. And so she ended up partnering with, I think, Dunkin' Donuts, I think.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Sure. I forget. But one of those brands. And then now she has her own coffee line as her D2C product, right? An example of you don't really know what you're going to end up selling, right? Sometimes it just serendipitously happens for you. And this is a person who has no niche, no expertise, no experience in marketing or branding or supply chain or coffee, just a regular person who became way, way more.
Yeah. And I'm going to be honest, if I could get 500,000 very devoted viewers to watch me like walking around a garage and like fixing stuff every single day, week after week, I'd fire everyone.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. You're out.
There's no need for it. Right?
There's no need for it, right? Yeah. And it's funny how that works, right? Like content is so weird because like we think it's like me by myself creating vlogs, and then the linear path is like Mr. Beast, 150 on staff, spending 25 million a video, right?
Yeah.
It's not. Like he exists in a silo. There are people who, like Emma Chamberlain, like make more money than they could ever know what to do with and create content that is very fulfilling to them and appeals to such a devoted fan base that is so low lift and requires very little. Mm-hmm. Ryan Trahan's a great example. He used to have a much bigger staff, much bigger, meaning like I think he had 6 or 8 people on staff. And then he realized it's like, he was just making stuff that he kind of didn't, he was beastifying, Yeah. And then he was like, let me pare this down. Let me make stuff I really want to make that's a little bit simpler. And then now it's just him and 2 other guys. And like his content has been more popular than it's ever been because it was just good ideas executed simply. He records with an iPhone, like I think there's this, maybe this is like the, again, corporate business startup mentality, which is like scale bigger, badder, more expensive. And that's the way forward. But content creation is kind of funny in that way. Like sometimes you might just hit a little pocket where it's like low lift is the way. People like authenticity. And so I leave the door open for that. I leave room for that, right? And like we have a content plan of stuff that is a little bit more authentic and simple in that way. And then I just did a video that was a whole production. We had like flew in Richard, who lives in Chicago, to come in and help shoot. And it was like me, Zan, Richard. We got a bunch of our friends to, just, pay him a pizza type thing. It was me living for 24 hours inside of this ridiculous car called an Ariel Atom, which is like literally just like a bunch of steel tubes with like a 400 horsepower engine at the back. It's literally just a go-kart with a license plate. And so it was a huge production for us because like typically we're making a lot more simpler, kind of more educationally kind of stuff. And then occasionally we branch out into some of these more experimental content styles.
Yeah.
And in the process of making that video was insane. Like I have been in the edit bay for the last 3 weeks, like 12 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. Oh, wow. You know, like just, and I was telling all of you guys when I came in about color, we were talking about color grading, right? And it's like, color grading is like such a stupid thing, but it's like, if you're someone who edits videos, it's like, I cannot release this without color grading. It's a make or break. You know what I'm saying? Like the luma needs to be at these points of saturation. The LUT needs to look like this. You know, it's like
our producer on the side is nodding his
head. Yeah, exactly, right? And the thing is, like, we haven't done a video at that scale in a while. Actually, like a year and a half. And I was like, damn, why are we doing this? Like, this is hard. It's a lot harder work than for something that's totally experimental that like, for all I know, I'm going to put it out and it's going to get very few viewers.
We have a similar mindset within our team is, we break it down like the 70-20-10 rule, right? Yeah. 70% is what keeps the ship going. 20% is that adjacent content, but a little bit experimental. And then 10% is like really crazy out there. Like that makes no sense, but maybe we hit a diamond in the rough randomly, right? But I think that's kind of what keeps the creative space exciting and fun for you to maintain the endurance through it, right? It's not about why am I doing it? Well, you're doing it because these are the moments that 2010 is really how you're going to grow in your craft when you're experimenting different methods, different technologies, because you're trying to level up, right? And if the audience appreciates it, amazing. If not, cool. You just probably learned a lot of skill sets that will make your 70% way, way better.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. And it's funny too, because it's actually, this is a little something that I've been struggling with over the last few years. It's like, we've been really like, alhamdulillah, like that 70% content, the main bread and butter stuff has been doing pretty consistently well. And that 70 kind of grew into 80. It kind of grew to 85. Like we started doing the same thing for a long time. And for maybe in the last 6 months, I kind of was like editing these, like our bread and butter is like these 30-minute sort of like looks at history, sort of documentary style content about cars and car culture, right? That's kind of the bread and butter. It's what we do. It's like it's educational, but entertaining at the same time, whatever, right? I would sit in those edits and I'd be like, dude, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, this is Albon. But like, I would be like, dude, this sucks. I would hate it. I would literally hate editing those videos. And I'd like start procrastinating and then we'd get behind schedule because I was like, I couldn't bring myself to sit in the chair and do these edits. But this video, this ridiculous video that I was literally like 6 shades lighter before we did this. I was outside in the Texas sun in a car with no roof, no windows, no doors, no nothing, right? Like just bacon. And it was horrible. It was painful, but oh my God, did I love it. And that edit, when I'm sitting there 14 hours a day, my watch is like, dude, stand up. Like, I don't know if you're dead or not. Like we legitimately don't know. And it's like, dude, I'm loving the edit. I'm loving sitting there messing with that color grade every clip by clip. It's like moving everything one frame here and there. And I was like, dude, I haven't been this excited about editing in a long time. So
that's like your flow. You hit the creative flow state,
exactly.
right?
It's like sometimes it takes a lot to wrangle the ADHD and stuff like that. But like this was it. I was just so creatively enticed by this video that it feels worth it even if it flops. And that's that 10% thing that I was neglecting for a long time. And I think that's a trap for creators. Like once you get something that starts working, you might end up turning it into a job. And that's what I did for sure for a while. And at least that's what it felt like. And like, I needed to check myself.
Well, sometimes I think it's because when you start your creative journey, you're waiting for that climatic moment where like, this is your breakthrough video, right? Like what was your breakthrough video that was like, oh my goodness, so many eyeballs are here?
We did a video in 2019 before the new Toyota Supra came out. Alhamdulillah, my wife drives one now.
Nice.
It's a good place to be. Before it came out, we were very lucky in that in all my years of being a car nerd, I was always on car forums, and I ended up becoming like moderators of like 1 million car forums. And so I knew a lot of people who were in the automotive industry and adjacent to that. And I ended up being connected with a lot of people at Toyota, engineers that were working on this project and would like leak me details. And I was like, posted them on the forums. Our forum was going crazy traffic. There's so many rumors. No one knew anything about the car. We were getting exclusive spy shots, all this sort of stuff. And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna make a video about this, which was very unlike the content we had been making, which was, again, like a totally different, we were like building cars and stuff like that, like rebuilding cars and fixing stuff. I made that video and it was interesting. It was creative. It was very left field for us and it was very different. And that video was like, I think we were averaging maybe back then, like 15,000 views a video, and that video I think did like 1.5 million in like a week or so, you know. And I was just like, dude, it's crazy, right?
It was that 10%.
It was that 10%, 100%. Yeah. It was that 10%. You know, it's interesting, and I've done a couple 10%ers that didn't pay off, but like you said, you learn from those mistakes, and you can kind of incorporate it that way. But yeah, it was one of those things, and then I will say you can get a breakthrough video and the tide comes and you don't ride that tide. You don't make the right choices, because I did the stupid thing that a lot of content creators do, which is I made this video that was pretty different. And then I was like, oh, all these eyeballs are here. Let me continue making the thing that I was making that nobody was watching. And then it wasn't working.
So you didn't pivot to what?
I did not.
Yeah.
I did not. And so when you asked me about what was our breakthrough moment, I was like, dude, I had like 6 of those. Yeah. And I fumbled a lot of them, you know, but like, the learning process in the end was like kind of the big thing. And so, yeah, it's a wacky journey, but like, again, if someone had told me back then, like, hey dude, like you need to do this, it's the thing that worked, and not do that would have been nice.
No, but that's amazing insight, right? Like,
yeah.
Like honestly, like sorry you had to go through it.
No, it seems so dumb.
No, but like there's so many of these like experiences that just, oh yeah, it's right there. But it's always hindsight is 20/20, right? It's always like, why didn't we do a lot of things, right? Yeah. But like what you just said, like as a content creator, like that's incredible to learn. Like you're pushing all this content out. Like, of course you have like your base view, like whatever you consider your average viewer, right? Yeah. You find this new like thing that is like bringing a bunch of new eyes, and then you don't pivot. That's like amazing insight to know, like, hey, maybe that data should command me to continue to make that type of information or that type of content, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any other types of insights that you think are like very similar to that? Because that's like, that can save someone so much time and value. So for the content creators or aspiring content creators that are out there, do you have any other things like key insights like that you think would be worth sharing?
Yeah. Man, a whole bunch of stuff. I'd say a big thing is like, for everyone who starts out, for the vast majority of people who start out, not everyone, but you're kind of like shotgun blasting, you know what I'm like? You're just taking everything and you're just throwing it at the wall. And it's throw it at the wall and see what sticks. But for some reason, we always forget the see what sticks part. You know, like we see videos that do better than the average, and we're like, okay, cool. And then you keep kind of going kind of randomly. And so there's this like concept of like, you know, like, I mean, I guess the main thing is like, instead of looking at view, because like if all your videos do 200 views, right? And then you have a video that does like 800 views, you're going to look at it and be like, okay, it's still nothing. It's 800 views. That was a 4x outlier, right? That's the more important thing to look at. Understand your baseline, and then look at your like videos that are either above or below that as multipliers, right? If this thing did 1.5x, let's take a look at that video and figure out what about that was the thing. Break it down. Look at it a little bit more, you know, specifically and, you know, closely, and then try to create a little bit more in that vein. And I think it's crazy how we tend to overlook that. A lot of young content creators, people who are starting out, just like, they keep spinning their wheels because they didn't get 1 million views. But it's like, dude, no, like you're not going to be doing 200s and then get 1 million. That's just not how it works. It's the snowball effect. But hey, if you want to accelerate that snowball, really look at like what your outliers are and keep kind of doubling down on those things.
Compete against yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Compete against yourself and not others. That's the best way to put it. And that's the sort of thing. It's like, again, if you're always thinking like it's not a success unless I hit 1 million views, then like all you're going to have are failures.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at a video that's a 4x outlier from what you typically do, dude, that's a winner.
Yeah.
You know, like take the pat on the back and then take that information, those analytics, and try to build off of it. So that's for sure a big thing.
No, that's a great one.
Yeah.
Hit me any other more.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man. Shoot. It's just experimentation, obviously. Like, get out your comfort zone, do kind of wacky stuff, even if it's not something you would maybe typically do. Obviously, not against your morals or anything like that. But, like, you know, stuff that maybe creatively is a little bit different for you, obviously, especially when you're starting out and stuff like that. Too many times, again, like I said, I've fallen into the trap of like, hey, we do this, and this is working. And we just become very creatively apathetic. You know? It's like, and it sucks because you'll be like, it's great because like, you know, the AdSense checks are coming in, and then like 8 months down the line, you're like, dude, like, why do I hate my life right now?
Right.
I'm doing, and then everyone's like, man, you're living the dream right now. I'm so jealous. Like, man, I'm working this job. I don't love it, but like, dude, what you're doing is amazing. And you're like sitting there like, dude,
if only you knew.
I made $112 this month. And it's like, you know, like if I was getting a bi-weekly paycheck and health insurance, I still don't have health insurance to this day. My health insurance is, don't tell them my name when I show up to the hospital. You know, I'm John Smith. You know what I'm saying? So we'll figure that out too. But you know,
it's a common challenge. Actually.
Yeah, and again, like it goes back to like don't compare yourself to others in that way.
Yeah.
And just compete against yourself and try to just grow from there.
Okay, I've got one more question.
Okay.
And then you can take it away.
Wrap it up. Yeah.
So earlier in the discussion, earlier in today, like you were talking about like algorithms back then, about like niching down, and then you kind of alluded to, hey, maybe that's not as relevant today. I would love to hear your opinion about why that change has happened, from an algorithmic perspective, and what you've seen as like the changing shift, as well as like how a content creator should account for that shift.
Yeah. So I'd say I don't know exactly what changed, how these particular algorithms function in a more scientific standpoint. But what I do know is that I think the current way that all these platforms, Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and stuff like that, like serve content is so advanced and so hyper specific now. Like YouTube subscribers do not matter. It is what we call a vanity metric, right? It means absolutely zero now, like less than zero now. The only thing it is like a little bit of like an introduction clout factor, either with people or with brands. Otherwise, completely useless. If you make content on YouTube, that magic machine will find the people that like that stuff, no matter what. And it's been interesting because I have seen a fair few examples of people who have pivoted to making content about a variety of stuff that are very different. There's this one guy in particular who left a company called Donut Media because they got bought by private equity, and then it turned, you know, the inshitification, as they say. And then he left along with all of their main content creators. This dude has a channel now called Speed. His name's James Pumphrey. He makes content about fashion. He makes stuff about like just like men's health type stuff. He makes stuff about cars in the sense of like top 10 cars to buy if you're a college kid, as well as like we're gonna do this super in-depth engine swap on like a Volkswagen GTI. Like a crazy breadth of stuff. And I'm missing some of the topics. Dude, all his videos are banging. You know, they're finding the viewership, you know, and like you jump in the comment, they don't all get the same amount of views, but he is getting views on them. And there was a time that if I told you like, hey, I'm going to make a video about cars and then I'm going to make a video about men's fashion, like the history of Levi's, they would have been like, dude, are you dumb? Like, that's not going to work. Case in point, it works, dude. And the reason is that inherently, maybe because of the, you know, the more advanced capabilities of the current algorithms is like, they know how to figure out what this video is about and take it to the people that want to watch that sort of thing. And all the platforms are like that, right? To varying degrees or whatever. They're all a little bit different, but you know, for the most part, they will do that. And I think it's interesting because now it's like, dude, I like other stuff other than cars. You know, most people probably don't know that because, you know, all I do is blab about cars. But like
mango juice.
Yeah. You know, it's like, dude, like I'm getting into coffee now. I'm watching James Hoffman videos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like I volunteer at a cafe at our masjid and stuff like that, right? So it's like I'm like super into coffee. I'm like I literally close my eyes to go to sleep and I'm thinking about grind sizes and like, you know, bean roasts and stuff like that. I got no one to talk to about
should
that.
have been the co-host for this
You know?
episode.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's crazy. And so I have not made a video about coffee. And I'm going to be honest, I probably won't. It's kind of scary, right? Like, I'm not going to not make a video about cars. Like, that's the thing that we do. But, like, I'm seeing the shift. I'm not participating in it quite yet, but I'm seeing it.
Well, you know, I think it'd be such a cool video idea because, like, what's the one race that goes for, like, multiple days? It's it's like the same driver has to drive for like a very. It's like what Ford and Ferrari was about, like that movie.
Oh, the Le Mans.
Yeah.
Like the 24 hours.
I wonder
of Le
if
Mans
like
and stuff
coffee
like that.
played in a role in that, right? Are they getting caffeinated? Like I feel like there's a story.
Let's be honest, they're doing some stronger stuff.
Yeah,
but
same plan.
100%. It's a fascinating idea, right? It's I'm sure that something like coffee has played a role in something like that, like keeping people attentive for racing and stuff like that, right? So 100%. And that's great. Like that's like an adjacent idea that will speak to both of my passions or whatever. But like maybe
the 10%.
The 10%. Right. But maybe there is a day where I'm gonna straight up make a video about coffee and it will not have anything to do with cars.
Yeah.
And like people will watch it. Maybe. I'm not brave enough to do it just yet. But like, seeing other people do it. And that's kind of the thing. It's an interesting shift that's happening and one that really goes against all of the kind of norms. And there's a lot of, I guess, like YouTube strategists or whatever that you'll call them. This one guy, I forget what his name is. He worked for like Gary Vaynerchuk and the Hormozis and stuff like that. He was like one of their main strategists. And like this dude, when he talks about content creation, he's like, yeah, the niche down stuff is all gone.
Yeah.
He's like, you make content, you make good content that people want to watch, and the people that want to watch it will watch it. And like, that's it. Simple as that. And I'm like, dang, cool, you know? And so maybe eventually one day we'll start, you know, I'll start making videos about, you know, I don't know, coffee, computers, other nerdy stuff that I like. But until then, I'm just going to make videos about cars. So,
well, I think that's the best way to wrap it up, Guff. I mean, from engineering to, I guess to making home videos, to engineering to now being one of the largest automobile creative accounts on YouTube. How can they find you?
Albon Films everywhere.
There you go. On all platforms, YouTube, Instagram. You're on TikTok?
Yeah. I'm on TikTok.
Oh, he's on there. We'll link
I haven't
it below.
posted for years, but yeah, I'm on there.
Well, Guff from Albon Films, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Caravan and sharing your journey.
Thank you.